Jeepers Creepers 2 comes with a dip in quality from the first movie. The first bore point it's gonna get right off the bat is the fact that they didn't bring back the truck, which made him such a unique killer compared to other movie villains. When the movie starts, you see a farm family made up of a dad, two sons, and a really good boy. The youngest boy is actually fixing up some of the scarecrows that they have. They have three of them, and one of them looks different than the other two. The older brother is a little bit of an ass to his little brother. He kind of says some mean things to him that he shouldn't have because he'll be regretting it a little bit later. As the kid is looking at the last scarecrow, he realizes that he has some really big claws. And we get some great visuals here with the creeper on the pole, and you can see him against the sun, and you see the silhouette, and it's actually shot very well. Once again, just like the first movie, it starts off really fast. You get the creeper right off the bat, right in the first 5 minutes of the movie, and you get to see some of his new moves that he has. As the youngest child is looking at the third scarecrow, which is actually the creeper, they go back and show them dad and the brother, and they hear some rustling. And when they look over, the scarecrow's gone, as was the young child. They hear him screaming through the corn, and they actually go chasing him through the cornfields. And as they're getting closer to the creeper with the child, it actually starts to fly off, and he takes this young boy in the very beginning of the movie. What I like about this scene is that it doesn't hold back right off the bat, and it's shot in the daytime, which gives it this like scary factor because most scary movies are always shot in the dark. The main story begins with a bus that's riding on this highway from the first movie, and they're your typical cliche high school sports jocks. They're arguing about everything, and it's them and about three cheerleaders and three adults, three school staff. As they're driving, one of their tires pops, so the three adults go out to investigate. They see in the tire that there's actually a homemade ninja star that's made by the creeper, and when they turn it around, they realize that there's a tooth on it, realizing that it's a human tooth, and they're kind of stuck there for a little bit. Inside of the bus, the jocks are arguing with each other and fighting back and forth about a bunch of nonsense that doesn't make any sense. These characters aren't as likable as Derry and Trish from the first movie, and there's a lot more of them, so it's harder to keep track of who's who in this movie. We go back to the farm, and you see the brother looking through that cornfield trying to find any clues of where his brother might have been taken, and he actually finds an old knife. He takes it back to his dad, and they realize that it has a lot of like carvings, and it's like creepy carvings of almost like bodies all over it, kind of like the tunnel in the first movie had. And then while he's holding it, the knife actually flies out of his hands and gets stuck on the wall, and they just like stare at each other very intensely for like a couple seconds. Then we go back to the bus, and you see how they're stuck. So some of them are on top of the bus tanning. The girls are trying to hide from the teacher smoking. You have other jocks that are over there peeing next to each other, peeing on each other. Back at the farm, you see the dad that's making his homemade weapon using the knife that they found on the cornfield as they are preparing for sweet revenge. After this, we go back to the bus being fixed and everybody getting back in. When they all get back in the bus, they start arguing again about sports and other cliche stuff. One of the cheerleaders passes out and she starts having visions. She sees on the side of the road our boy Derry, who comes back. Justin Long actually comes back to do about 30 seconds in this movie, and it's the best acting in the whole movie. He's pointing at something behind him, and when she looks over, it's actually the creeper that's like jogging through the cornfield, and he has something in his hand, and he throws it at the bus. And when she wakes up, they see that the bus actually goes back down again, so it pops another tire, and they're stuck once again, except this time is during the night. When the adults go down to investigate to see what happened to the tire this time, they see another ninja star, and when they flip it over, this time it actually has a belly button. And you can actually see a rose tattoo around it, meaning it's our boy Derry's belly button. After seeing this, they all get scared, and the creeper starts coming in from the skies and taking out the adults one by one. All the teenagers run back into the bus after all their teachers have been taken away, and they all sit and they're trying to wait and see what's going to happen. Back at the barnyard, we actually have the dad who's listening to the radio, and he's trying to listen for any clues about anybody talking about a flying creature or anything like that, and he gets a tip that's going to take him directly to our other characters in the bus. Back at the bus, we actually have some more arguing, this time with some homophobic slurs and some racism sprinkled in there here and there. While they're arguing, they actually notice that the creeper is actually outside. He's actually sniffing through the windows at everybody in the bus, And at one point, you actually get a pretty cool scene where he's in the front of the bus and he's kind of pointing at everybody and he's like sniffing through the window. And the people he likes, he kind of like does a little nod at them. He winks at one of them. He kind of does like a thumbs up to somebody else, I think. The people he doesn't like, he just kind of tells them to get out of the way. So he's picking and choosing who he likes. And at the very end, the very last guy, he actually like rolls his eyes to the back of his head and he starts licking the window. So you know he really likes this guy. The cheerleader passes out once again and starts having some more visions. Just like I mentioned in the first one, I've never been a big fan of psychic characters in movies, and in here it's no different. It just, she doesn't add anything new to the movie, and it's just information that we already knew. She tells the jocks about her visions and what's going on, and obviously they don't believe her. As she's telling them this, the radio actually goes off, and it's the farmer asking them where their location is. They don't know exactly how far they are from each other, but he is getting closer to them. They start to cheer and celebrate because they know that somebody's actually coming to help. And while they're doing this, the creeper actually reaches from the roof of the bus and grabs one of the jocks by the head. As the creeper's holding that guy's head, they find one of the sticks that they had, a really pokey stick, and they start poking through the roof of the bus, and they actually stab the creeper a couple times. And the very last one actually gets him right in the eye, all the way through the back of the head. And then here you actually get a pretty gory scene where you see the creeper on top of the bus with the spear all the way through his head, and he's just trying to like take it in and out, and he actually ends up just ripping half of his head completely out. You can tell that this actually damaged him pretty badly because he tries to fly away, but he can only get so far, and he just comes right back down and lands right on the bus. When he lands back at the bus, one of his wings actually goes through a little crevice in the roof, and it's kind of hanging there, and you can kind of see how big his wings really are, as everybody's trying to break out through the front door or the back door, but they're both jammed. While one of the jocks is playing with the creeper's wings and making fun of how it feels like toilet paper, it actually wraps him all around, and while the other people are trying to help him get out of it, once they pull the body down and the wing goes up, the jock's head is actually missing, so he's just kind of swinging around without his head. And one of the girls actually looks through one of the holes in the ceiling to see what's going on, and she actually sees the creeper eat the head. Whenever she's watching, you actually see the creeper kind of grab his own head and take it completely off, and then you see the new head kind of grow, and it still looks like the jock. And then he does this funny like look where he looks at the camera, and then it just goes back to his regular face. I don't know if I love or if I hate this scene. They argue some more because they're trying to decide what to do here. After the creeper gets his new head, he actually leaves him alone for a little bit, and the jocks are actually arguing on whether or not to kick out the people that he picked out, which kind of makes sense. I feel like in a realistic scenario, that topic of conversation would actually come up. Compared to all the other arguing scenes, this one makes more sense than the rest of them. They decide that some of them are actually just gonna go for it and run away, and they all step out of the bus. While they're stepping out of the bus, they actually see the creeper flying right over them, and they all just start running in different directions. The creeper starts chasing them, and it keeps taking down some of them one by one. In a pretty cool twist on the cliche tripping while the bad guy's chasing you in a horror movie, on this one you see a guy that's running straight at the camera, and you see the creeper running right behind him, and right when he's about to catch him, he actually trips, and the creeper just misses him because of the trip. So I like how they did a little twist on that cliche. In another cool scene, the creeper throws one of his ninja stars, and it catches one of the jocks in his hand and pins him against a tree. And he's kind of stuck there, and 3 other people try to come and help him. And while they're trying to free him, the creeper is getting closer and closer. And as soon as they take it off, the creeper actually snatches him up, so they kind of did all that work for nothing. After all this, the farmer finally gets to them. The creeper goes back on top of the bus, and the truck's in front of the creeper, and you get this great scene from behind the creeper where he opens his wings, and you see the light flash through his wings. And it has like this really cool visual of like the creeper with just the light behind him, and it looks actually pretty cool. Speaking of cool shots, the farmer actually shoots the creeper right through the chest with his homemade spear, and it has a rope connected to the truck, and the creeper takes off flying, and he's trying to get away from them, and it's pulling on the truck, and he actually frees himself, and he throws it back at the truck where the older brother from earlier is driving, and he kind of just dodges the truck. So the creeper starts flying around the bus and them, and the farmer starts to reload the gun again. So in this really cool scene where you see the bus sideways and then the truck's on right in front of it and the creeper's coming from this side, the farmer actually shoots the creeper through the bus, and now the creeper has the bus and the truck right between him. And you actually see his strength in this scene because he flips the bus over as well as the truck at the same time. So you know just how strong this guy really is. While this fight's going on, a couple of other students go and find an old truck that we saw a little bit earlier that was kind of crashed against a tree, and they try to turn it on and it works. So they start to drive away. The creeper sees this and starts chasing them. And this is kind of like the beginning of the end for the creeper, because when he thinks he's about to get the guy that's on the back of the truck is the one that he was like licking the window and rolling his eyes to the back of his head. And they have a smart idea that they're gonna all jump off and he's gonna slam the brakes. So when he does that, the creeper goes straight through the truck. Whenever they show the aftermath of this, you see that everybody's in a lot of pain, and the guy that the creeper is after, he gets up and he notices that the wing of the creeper is actually there by itself. So that means that the creeper got damaged pretty badly. He looks over and he sees the creeper, and he sees him sniffing around, and he kind of spots where he's at. Here you see the creeper, and you see that he's missing one arm, he's missing one leg, and he's missing both of his wings. So at this point, you know that he's not completely done for, but he's getting to that point, but he is not giving up. In another pretty cool scene, you see the creeper just with one leg and one arm hopping over the tall grass, getting closer and closer to the jock. He actually catches up to him and gets on top of him, and right before he's about to eat him, the farmer arrives with his truck, which I thought was destroyed, but I guess it still works. So he gets back to that scene and he shoots him right through the forehead. The farmer gets out of his truck and goes up to the creature, and he starts stabbing him over and over and over through the chest. After this, you just see the creeper laying there, and he actually starts to shrivel up. Like everything like that he has around his head starts going over his face, and he just shrivels up like an old prune. And one of the girls actually says that they didn't kill him, that he just ran out of time, and that he'll be back in 23 years. After all this, you don't know what happened to the teenagers from the bus, but you do see what happens to the farmer and the other son. You see a truck of 3 teenagers coming up to their farm, and they're greeted by a much older brother at this point. They're charging $5 for people to come see the creature in person, and when they go up to see him, they kind of tell the farmer that it looks fake. The guy tells them that he doesn't care if they believe him or not, and he tells them that they have about 3 days left before he awakens. We never got a real sequel to this part, which I really wanted to see. After this, the sequels really take a dive down in quality. So Jeepers Creepers 2, it's not as good as the first one, at least not in my opinion. It is still a good movie. The characters aren't as likable as the first one, but I do like the ending of it when they're fighting the creature with the farmer. Like, all that is actually done very well. The following sequels just keep getting worse and worse. I will be touching on those a little bit later. Jeepers Creepers 2 ends with a total of 9 gore points versus 4 bore points, with a plus 5 point total.